It was not like a closed-door meeting. Senator Ibrahim Shekaro, who is a former governor of Kano State, came to my office on like a private visit. Private and official, because in this kind of predicament, this kind of situation we found ourselves, certainly we have to be meeting our stakeholders and compare notes so that eventually we can see what we can actually do for the people and the government of Kano State. There is no doubt saying that the situation in Kano is quite pathetic. The situation in Kano is getting out of hand. The situation in Kano obviously is alarming. And those of us who are elected at this level of government have that moral responsibility to meet one another to see how we can compare notes. It was not only Shekaro. You can see a lot of other members. That is Honorable Musa Garu, member representing Gorzo, Honorable Hafiz Zukau, member representing Tarauni Federal Constituency. And we are doing that by way of private engagement. By way of private engagement, individually meeting my members of my caucus in the House of Representatives, and of course getting across to the Senate to meet with my distinguished senators. We do this deliberately in order to comply. We must have to comply with the restriction and regulations of the disease control agencies, NCDC. We cannot encourage a meeting of mass people of like 24 members of the House of Representatives. We will also not encourage members of the Senate coming across here to meet with us in a group setting. So we have decided to, by design, meet members individually so that we can consult ourselves, especially now that the House is contemplating, not even contemplating, the leadership of the House of Representatives has resolved to resume plenary tomorrow. And we that are from Kano State, bearing in mind the kind of situation and circumstances at hand, we feel we must have to coordinate ourselves, take a common front, so that by tomorrow on the floor of the House of Representatives, all that is needed for the people of Kano State, the support we require for the governor and the government of Kano State can be mustered so that we can be able to give a kind of parliamentary engagement or parliamentary intervention to the matter. But by and large, we have all agreed that while appreciating the efforts of the governor of Kano State, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, in various ramifications, in various aspects of interventions, precautionary, protective, and even post-COVID infection, there are a lot the government is doing, but we all believe that that is not enough. The problem we have at hand now in Kano is not something that the state governor or the government of Kano State can handle alone. You must also take into cognizance that the fact that Kano, like Lagos, is a cosmopolitan city. Kano, like Lagos, is a commercial city. When you talk of Kano, you are virtually talking about all other northern states. That is where they go to trade. That is where they go for commercial engagement. So any matter of this nature affecting Kano State, it is generally affecting the northern part of the country. That is why we think the federal government has to do something so robustly urgent. The federal government would have to do a kind of very proactive intervention, like it did in other states. Of course, our people have this concern. Our governor have the same concern. And those of us are at this level in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. Indeed, we have the same concern. We also appreciate what the federal government is doing in various aspects of its intervention, especially the PTF, under the chairmanship of the SGF, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Barrister Boss Mustafa. A lot of appreciation. Even this morning, I had my conversations with him on telephone because we cannot even engage ourselves physically. And the kind of conversations I have had with the SGF this morning and last night are quite encouraging. Already they have made arrangements to dispatch about 40 medical doctors to go ahead and also engage and interface with our local medical doctors over there to see how they can really put a stop, if not final stop, at least intervene with our local medical officials there to see how Kano State case can be brought under control. Of course, certain things are still not yet to be unraveled, but I believe the governor and the government are doing a lot to make sure that they can be able to unravel some of these things, especially like the issue of the mass death, which is happening now. You have a state like Kano, so populous, is locked down, especially in the city, the ancient city, where the aged, the young ones, and the women are now jump-packed into very restricted home vicinities. you certainly will expect a lot of commotion. Meningitis is there, possibility of malaria is there, suffocation is there, social trauma and demoralization is also there. And these are some of the factors that we ordinarily feel have to be addressed. Create, even if it means creating some special camps in schools, provide living facilities so that you can pull out the crowd from their homes. And there may also be need to relax the restriction order in the city. I understand the governor is right now meeting with some stakeholders, religious leaders, the traditional rulers, to see how they can address this problem. And I want to believe by tomorrow, when we get in session in plenary, members of Kano origin, the House of Reps Caucus members will certainly come up with something robust, something quite articulate to the extent that we will now voice the position of the people of our state. I want to, in essence, say that we need an urgent intervention. We need a robust intervention. We need a constant surveillance from the NCDC and from the Federal Republic of Nigeria as a government. Otherwise, the case we have in Kano certainly will be very alarming and demoralizing.
Sir, not to bother you most, as a leader of the House of Representatives, I'm coming from Kano State. What is your advice for the Kano citizen, particularly in this time of social distance?
I think it is a straightforward question. My own advice, my candid advice, will still remain the professional advice given by medical specialists, the doctors, who are right now in the field fighting COVID. And the advice is that our people in the state must have to be sensitized. And when they are sensitized, they must have to comply with this social distancing order, because that is the only way to go. The suspension of congregational prayers, especially now in the months of Ramadan, it is all done in good faith. Nobody would want to inconvenience anybody in the discharge of his religious responsibility. But circumstances has made it necessary now that our people must have to comply with some of these instructions, all of these instructions. Because as long as you don't abide by these restrictions, the next thing is that you have the volatility of spreading this COVID-19 all over. And in a state like Kano, where you have this population, then certainly the result will be ravaging. The result will be demoralizing. I want to believe that our people should continue to observe this social distancing and also use the compulsory face mask, use the sanitizers to wash their hands. Because if you don't do that, actually, then it's going to be something else. And I believe states like Lagos, who are much more enlightened than our people, are doing the same. And that is why you can now see the level of curtailment in Lagos State is quite high, and they have been able to contain it. And one other factor that I have to also stress here vividly is the issue of creating more testing centers. As I speak with you, Benga, in Kano right now, we don't have not a single functional testing center. The only one we had at Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, I think, was faulty, and up to now they have not been able to fix it. A state like Kano would require not less than 5 testing centers. 2 in the center, the metropolitan areas of 6 or 8 local governments, highly populous, and maybe 1 each in our other senatorial districts, if possible. Even in the recently newly created Emirates, you have at least 1, so that people could have access to places where they can test themselves. If we don't test our people, you may not even know the status of the infection that is going all over now and then, and now people are getting so much confused about it. This is our position, and we will continue engaging and interfacing with members of the House of Representatives so that we can now compare notes and also sample out ideas from individual members. We are doing that, like I said, to make sure that we comply with the social distancing order. We also comply with the directives of the the Disease Control Center, NCDC, so that we don't create room or platform for mass gathering.
Finally, sir, today will be the end of 14 days that Mr. President announced.
Yes.
Assuming that Mr. President came tonight, and give another 14 days to lock down the FCT, Ogun State, and Lagos State, and National Assembly is resuming tomorrow, what is going to be the causes?
I think there won't be much of any consequences. I believe myself and His Excellency the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria are not medical doctors. And what the President is doing under complete guidance and advice of medical officials, medical experts. So if by the advice of medical experts, they feel that Nigeria is still not safe for us to assume responsibilities, then certainly we will abide by whatever declaration made by the government. But I want to believe that our resumption of plenary tomorrow is part of what any ordinary person can believe to be the provision of an essential service. We are members that represent the people of the state, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and in certain circumstances like this, especially when government requires funding, and most of the funding that the government is engaged into are monumental funding that they must have to be brought to the House of Representatives for consideration. And some of our rules of operations as an institution have not envisaged this kind of situation. So basically, we are going to engage our members tomorrow, be able to extract some mandate from them, so that the leadership of the House of Representatives can continue to engage relevant agencies of government for and on behalf of other members. If you don't extract this mandate, if you don't have this institutionalized, then you will be in trouble. So I think the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Bajabiamila, who has envisaged this implication and decided to cut the brake for us to re-engage tomorrow, I think is a very good decision, and that will give us an institutional impetus and instrumentality to continue to engage the government, especially in the face of an increased need for funding. When government needs to spend money, they have to have recourse to the National Assembly. In the present circumstances, most of the expenditure that is going on, they have not had any recourse to the National Assembly, which by implication would amount to like breach of financial regulations, breach of the tripartite existence of the federal government, which of course is a democratic system of government. We will do this in the interest of Nigerians, and we are doing this to support the government so that whatever the government is doing will be in tandem with the provisions of our extant rules of operation. Thank you.